Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Operation Ace Open. We just finished watching the first match. I'm Wavepunk, joined here by Silent Echo. And Silent Echo, I heard someone at the end say, like, oh, it was kind of a back and forth affair. And I mean, it was back and forth as in, like, the X-Wings and TIE Fighters were on one end and the other end of the field at points. But other than that, this was like a battering ram on a front door of a KFC, just straight through the whole thing. This was shrapnel. Was everywhere. Shrapnel was the correct name for Team Squadron there. Splinter.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, well, I mean, that's the kind of thing, right? You know, shrapnels, I guess, are kind of like splinters. So I guess we found out which one is superior. But I really feel like, you know, you refer to that as a back and forth affair, and you're absolutely right. I mean, the design of the game means that it was a back and forth affair. But I think if that had been a dogfight, would have been a very, very low number of kills on one side. But what we saw there, I think, is just how important those strategies are. Understanding what your role is. You know, everybody was fulfilling a very specific role, and that was working really well. And the other team, you know, they were probably trying to do that, but not succeeding. And that is, you know, the nature of competitive play. If it ain't working, do something different. And I just did not see enough attempts to adapt to change. We should, you know, if you're having that hard a time, make some drastic changes, you know, throw anything out, just surprise them, whatever it is. Switch to all iron torpedoes. I don't know. I'm crazy.
I mean, just throwing the... There's an argument for not throwing the baby out with the bathwater as well. Don't try and reinvent the wheel on the fly and completely screw yourself, right? But I agree with you that, like, maybe think of completely out of the box is important when you're running into players as good as Fenkar. Fenkar was easily my MVP for the first round. I mean, you pointed out his dead drifting. You pointed out the way he was flying that defender around those frigates. I don't know what you're supposed to do, and when you're not able to really get your A-Wings onto him because you're dealing with the interceptor of Scalp the whole time, this is a problem. This is a problem. Oh, I'm out of sync. I bet I can fix that myself, guys. You know, tell me if that fixed it. Tell me if I'm back in sync, chat. We're figuring things out on the fly.
I mean, who knows? You're not in sync for me, but I don't expect these things.
They didn't make a mistake. This is the world of esports
in 2020. You know, it's just all audio desync and remote events, and trying to figure out what do you put in that really empty corner. Oh, I have a Boba Fett head. I'll put that there. You know. Yeah,
it's funny. This is actually a new place for me. This is my first broadcast out of this room. I can change the color of everything down here if I want to, but blue seemed to fit what we're doing here. So yeah, I'm really excited to watch Splinter Squadron moving forward. This is a team that clearly has their roles defined. They understand how to adapt. Game 2 was a clinic in how to win a game. It was 3 phases. Both their games were 3 phases, but the first phase in game 2, they took out both frigates. Second phase, they took out both shield generators and took it down to half health. And phase 3 was just GG. They dropped 1 frigate, and they dropped it at the very end of the other team's second phase. Like, that was as clean of a game as we're going to see all day.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Certainly on the stream, you know, as we move forward and things start to heat up a little bit as we come up to this top 4 matchup, we're still waiting for the quarterfinals to finish out because, you know, that game was a little bit quicker than the others. I don't know why, but what we do have coming up for us, I think, is just going to be really exciting. And I'm just... You know, Splinter Squadron, they dropped, I think it was 2 matches in the groups, and I caught the tail end of one of those, and the way that they were dissecting that, you know, you and I, we've been orbiting around esports for a long time now. I've heard a lot of competitive teams talk, but I was not expecting the level of professionalism and how they were critiquing and trying to think of what else they should do, trying to avoid not over-talking about specific subjects as well. You know, it's just really, really important to see that developing as soon as possible.
Here's the thing. You knew Splinter Squadron was the real deal when they wouldn't stream their scrims. When they have strats they're trying to hide from the other squadrons on air, you know that there's something that they're doing well. And when they have strats like that, and they're flying as well as these guys are, like, this is easily a favorite to win the whole thing at this point. But we here on stream have only seen 1 match. I can't imagine what's happening in the other matches. And if we could go back to the bracket, there's some really cool names on this bracket that I think are important to talk about, okay? Because we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squadrons, okay? They all know what they're doing, right? But then we got a team of scientists. What do scientists know about flying, right? Well, they're crate scientists. They're all about crate dragons on Tatooine. I wouldn't challenge those guys if they say they can do something. They're able to do it, okay? That's terrifying. Also, Akbar's Angels, easily best name in the tournament, and they're literal deities. They're flying infinite beings. So I don't know. This is anyone's game as far as pilots versus celestials versus scientists. What's your favorite name?
I think the Crate Science team takes it, because you're absolutely right. When I turn around to somebody and they're like, oh yeah, you know, I'm like a biologist, and I'm like, oh cool, so like plants and stuff, and they're like, no,
like
crate
algae?
dragons. I'm like, oh right, let me buy you a drink.
Yeah, no, that's completely
Please
different.
never take me to your workplace.
A note there on the bracket, you saw that Gray Squadron just advanced in their round as well, so it will be Gray Squadron versus Splinter Squadron for our first semifinal, and we'll have those matches coming up here as soon as we possibly can. We're still obviously waiting on the results of the other matches before we can get that second part of the semifinals done. Let's take a look at the format overall on the day. We're playing for $1,000, and about 200 of that goes to some bounties and the Medal of Valor. If you're the player, the pilot that gets the most kills, you'll get yourself $25. Most assists will also earn $25, and then $25 to the player that gets the most capital ship damage. Obviously, Fenkar, currently on stream, our favorite for that one. And then the survivalist, player with the least amount of deaths, will be taking home a prize for themselves as well. And chat, at the end of the day, we, the analysts, and you, the viewers, will nominate an MVP. That player will earn themselves $100. I know who my vote is from so far, but I don't want to sway things. I want to we got a lot of gameplay to get through here, Silent Echo. Like, I'm not going to go off of just 2 games we watched that were obviously one-sided.
Yeah, we've seen 25% of round 1 of a very interesting bracket in an event with a new meta, because the Defender is here, and this is the first Fleet Battle tournament since the Defender came out. It's an open format, it's custom matches. This is everything that we wanted a week after the game came out and we were running the original Operation Ace. So now it's here and we're doing it. This is amazing. So very excited to see exactly who it is that is going to be coming up. And it looks like Gray versus Splinter Squadron. This is a rematch that I have been waiting for. I saw this match in the group stage. I watched that happen, and Splinter Squadron took it. They took the last 20 HP of the MC-75 out of phase while under a complete attack at their cap ship.
Man, well, that if there isn't anything to get you guys excited for the next match, I don't know what it is. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Gray versus Splinter. Who's going to take it down? We'll find out right here on Operation Ace. Oh, and we are back and moments away from watching Gray Squadron rematch up against Squadron Splinter. I don't think it works when you flip it around. Splinter Squadron versus Gray Squadron going up against it again. Right now, Gray Squadron does have the 1-0 record in this tournament by a very narrow win they had during the group stage. We'll see if Splinter can take it back down. I'm really excited about this because we did watch Splinter be so dominant, Sonico, in that first match. I'm excited to see them actually kind of put to their paces.
Yeah, I gotta hold my hands up. I had it the wrong way around, you know? Like, they won out of phase. It wasn't the team I expected to win in that moment, you know? And Gray were able to take it right at the last second. And Cheese said, actually, on his stream that every single time they play Splinter, it goes to something like that. You know, some crazy, all-out, desperate strategy just to get the win. And, I mean, that speaks to the heart of Star Wars for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, if you're not literally racing missiles, then like is it even actually a Star Wars game? So yeah. I'm excited to see which of these players really shows up and shines, and which one's going to be matching which role, because I have not watched this team play before, and it'll be an exciting matchup. One thing we didn't see at all in the first match was a B-wing at any point, and generally the B-wing is something that is super strong when going directly up against objectives, but one of the most difficult parts of the meta right now is getting to the objective, and it's hampering, it's completely dampened movement systems, making something that is a little bit more difficult at the top level of play. But that being said, we're so early on in the meta with the B-wing and the defenders that there still is room for improvement, and we might see it starting to sneak in here and there in situations throughout the course of our event.
I think we're mostly going to see the B-wing as a counter to a lot of defenders. If as soon as we see 2 or 3 defenders on a team, I think that there will be a B-wing, because those ion guns are just way too good against defenders, you know? And that's the kind of strategy that it's hard to come up against in ladder, because in ladder a lot of people are solo queuing, they're not playing with people they know, and you know, you're going to take ion guns and pray that your team's going to finish off the target for you. That's not going to happen, let's be honest. So it's definitely a team focused strategy, and you know, that's something that Splinter said actually after the loss to Gray, which, you know, makes way more sense now that I remember who won that match. But they said that in ranked, they're just not having to deal with that kind of defense. You know, they go on defense and they just flip it, and then they go back on the attack. Whereas the teams in this tournament, you know, particularly Gray Squadron, who was who they were talking about at the time, they put them on defense and they kept them there.
Yeah, which, I mean, a big part of that is being able to maintain interceptor pressure or A-wing pressure on the front line to be able to keep, because you have to, when the team's on defense, obviously their goal is to swing morale back the other way. If the other team, you are wanting to move on to offense so you can do damage, but damage in and of itself to the objectives doesn't actually swing morale. You have to be able to be doing damage to you're actually advancing the win objective, but also taking out the other pilots so you can stay on defense for longer. And that's something that's difficult. That's the wonderful ebb and flow of the game, is that as you focus on the objective, we get to focus on morale, and then we get to focus on the objective. If Gray Squadron's as good in the interceptor roles as Splinter Squadron is, we're gonna have some fun dogfighting to watch, and it's gonna be crazy to watch them do that dogfighting on offense.
Yeah, I almost feel like the interceptor battle, quote unquote, you know, like you talk about the air battle and the ground battle in wars, or the interceptor battle I think is going to be very even, but I think the bomber battle is going to be the where this match is actually decided, like which team is able to get their bomber into the right positions at the right time and really just like lay on the hurt and keep those AI down. And I mean, there's so many aspects to the game, right? Like you're casting a fleet battle and you're looking around, you're like, what do I talk about next? You know, we were talking about it during the break there. It's hard to know what to focus on from a spectating standpoint. Obviously, we're all learning. That's kind of one of the things that we have, is we're learning how to cast this as we go along, while these players are learning how to play this competitively as they go along. So we're all up against the line.
It's funny too, because learning how to, it's not just learning how to cast, but learning how to watch the game is definitely a thing. Let's take a look at the maps we're going to be playing over the course of this match. Similar situation to our previous matchup. We have Yavin and Sasuba, but in different orders, and my personal favorite map, Essels, will be here in our first map. I love these large objectives to work around for exactly what I was about to bring up. Watching these games can be very difficult on a map like Sasuba, where it's like, I have trouble at any moment knowing exactly where I am because it's a lot of kind of asymmetrical debris versus having one large thing to work around. I think creates a center point that's easy to kind of like wrap my head around. I can coordinate where I am on the map. It'll be fun to watch that one. Gray Squadron going to be playing the Empire.
Well, this is the kind of thing that in real life with pilots, you know, situational awareness, pilots very often lose track of where the ground is because, you know, they're pulling maneuvers or whatever, you know, and learning how to do whatever it is they're trying to do or doing it for real, who knows. But they can lose track of where the horizon is. And that's why they have, you know, you'd think, well, why does a plane need a thing that tells them where the horizon is? Well, because of clouds first, but then also because it's so easy to lose track of. In space, there's even less reference points, right? So having this large structure in the middle certainly makes it easier to focus things for us. And I think for players as well, it makes it easier for, like, to take stock at a glance requires a lot less mental energy. And that's something that we're going to end up talking about a lot in the future, but maybe isn't as important right now. But what are these players thinking about when they're flying? Are they thinking about how to execute what they're doing? Or are they thinking about what they're going to do next? Are they thinking about how to make the best use of their systems? Or are they thinking about what, you know, when they're going to bounce for a refill? You know, what is it that is going through a player's mind at an individual point? Like, where did they think is important to put the attention? Or maybe where can't they help putting their attention?
Yeah, it's interesting. You brought up the point of you were expecting to see Scalp on the Defender in that first round. We saw Scalp play basically. We saw him exclusively.
I was watching him fly it earlier. He looked beautiful.
Yeah, no, and we saw him fly exclusively interceptors and A-wings. And the one thing is I agree with you. I think he would be maybe one of their better Defender players, especially for that mid-tier aggression on other players, for kind of like filling an interceptor role with a Defender because of how good he is at managing the small things in this game. And Defenders just have that kind of like one extra tier with the APS. Yeah. But at the same time, I wasn't disappointed at all watching Fenkar play it, and I think that I'm not going to question anything Splinter Squadron's doing right now.
not so far, no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really interesting because, you know, they lost twice in the groups, but they lost one of those games against the team that they're playing now in the semifinals. So, you know, I feel like that could have gone in any direction at any time. It just happened to go in Grey Squadron's way. And, you know, like it feels like both teams are very aware of how hard a task is ahead of them. But I have to wonder whether those early losses in the group stage have maybe focused Splinter Squadron's mind a little bit better so that they can, you know, they've got that sort of like, oh, we lost today. We don't want to do that again. Whereas Grey Squadron, you know, they've been just riding through. Like, who's given them a challenge so far? I mean, lots of teams, obviously, but ultimately it came out the best. And, you know, it's so easy to feel like you're a little bit invulnerable, you know? Like, you just can't lose today. And then when you do, it's so surprising because you never considered that it might happen. Fortunately, with these players, you know, there's so many decisions to make. We're going to see very specific picks. These two teams seem to know each other very well. I would be interested to see who is targeting who, because that's the other thing that I've been finding out is that players have specific players that they like to go after. You know, they know that one person is better at going after a particular person on another team. That's a kind of meta level that I haven't seen in other esports, actually, to be honest, even in shooters, you know?
Well, and you usually don't have the flexibility to do so, right? Because it's just so much more situational. Just what shows up in front of you, you got to shoot that. Let's take a look at the bracket. While we're getting Gray versus Splinter set up. In the meantime, our other matches have also concluded here. Unfortunately, the Angels and the Crate Scientists are both eliminated, so we will be just Squadrons moving forward here. F's in chat for the.
Turns out it was just teams. A clever name.
It was just they clearly, you know, I thought Crate Scientists could do anything, but it turns out they can't fly planes. Better luck to them next time. We'll see how things go. But Devastator Squadron and Skull Squadron advance. They will be in our second semifinal, which we will see right after this match. So again, waiting for players to get secured in the lobby and ready to go, and then we can move forward with this matchup. But yeah, it's gonna be. I agree with you that I think the difference, one of the big differences here, will be in the bomber role, in the objective roles, but. I don't know. The Fenkar doesn't leave much room for improvement, but that was when Fenkar was uncontested, right? He was having very little pressure, and if Grey Squadron is as good at maintaining pressure and maintaining a fighter v fighter offensive control when on offense, when they're supposed to be focusing on an objective, I do worry about just how deadly are they on defense, and can Scalp distract hard enough to keep the pressure off of Fenkar?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I noticed with Splinter Squadron was just how good they are at taking stock before they move in, you know? Like, they make sure that when they're moving in, they're moving in. When I saw them go on the attack when they were playing as the Republic, they were taking shots, like, receiving shots, being hit by lasers, and I wasn't seeing their shield bars go down. They were all overcharged, they were all full health for, like, a significant portion of their initial attack, because they're avoiding the fire that's being thrown at them, and anything that did hit, you know, it's shield overcharge, who cares? So,
well,
yeah.
Yeah.
Carry on.
They're good at managing their stuff. Let's take a look again at the map breakdown. This is what we will be playing. We'll be starting on the SLs and then Yavin, then Sasubo to close things out if we make it to that game 3. So we'll see 3 different maps in 3 games here on stream. That's pretty exciting. So, and then we'll get to go back to the beloved Yavin in the middle. I think all teams kind of enjoy Yavin. It's just such an even playing field there. But yes, Gray Squadron going to be starting out on the Empire. We will see how they choose to line things up. The players now in the lobby, and we should be getting into that matchup here momentarily. I can't wait to get this one started and see who is going to be the standout player in this one. Man, it's so getting to see them play here in a long form as well, playing in a best of 3 will be a change. And then additionally, if Splinter Cell wins a match here, how does Gray Squadron play from behind will be something we need to pay attention to, because we have only seen this team win with a lot of momentum behind them.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's I think they're really going to be the difference. I have seen them because I watched them earlier on playing from behind, and I saw both teams playing from behind in that match. It seemed like both teams were always playing from behind, which didn't make any sense to me at the time, but it just shows how closely matched those teams were. And I think the real problem that Shrapnel Squadron had against Splinter was that they just weren't able to disrupt what Splinter wanted to do. You know, like they were the flies buzzing around your horse as you canter into battle. That wasn't a huge deal. You know, you had other things on your mind, like the arrows and stuff. You know, it almost felt like they were avoiding the capital ship more than they were avoiding the other players. And I think that that's just not going to be the case here. And I'm very interested to see as well whether Grey Squadron have any surprises up their sleeve for Splinter Squadron, or whether they did sort of show everything that was in their pocket in the group stage earlier on, and there's not going to be any surprises.
Yeah, we saw Splinter play the same opening in both of their maps from match number 1, starting with the Y-Wing, putting on AI farm pressure, getting a few kills to quickly swing things. There's a few other plays you can make there. We'll see if they bring something different out, but it does look like they are starting off with that Y-Wing on Fenkar again. We'll see up in the support. Everybody playing their standard lineup. On the side of Gray Squadron, we'll see 2 ties, a Defender, a Reaper, and a Bomber. Cheese versus Fenkar going to be the matchup to watch here in this best of 3 as we get started.
Yeah, just the moment. You know, this is the moment that I actually love in these matches, you know, where you're just driving forward, you know, you're just flying, you're like, I don't want to go too fast because then I'll be further ahead than everybody else and I'll be the first to die. You're just sort of charging up your shields, you know, that's the moment where you're going to hit that right D-pad and playing with controller and get that power into the shields and fully overcharge your shields so that when you do come in, you're ready to stay. And we see Cheese now just playing the objective. That's what Cheese does for the Grey Squadron. He plays the objective, he deals with the AI farm initially, and then starts to work on that cap ship damage. That's his role in the team. So look for him doing a lot of that.
Right now we see District taken down. Brunus also traded out. Early pressure from the Rebellion. They'll turn back around, form up on their support. Cheese gonna be retreating back for the resupply. We'll see the rest of Splinter Squadron move in from behind their Corvette. Cheese engaging dogfights. One of the things about the bombers, obviously not as strong as it was at the beginning, but extremely strong. The TIE Bomber at playing offense and defense, one of the most well-rounded ships in the game. Here's some pressure from Scalp onto the back of these defenders.
Yeah, the great thing about the Bomber is that it's so good for dealing with the AI shit. You're able to take those multi-target missiles that you can take down 4 at once. It's a really big deal for that. And what I noticed when we were following Cheese around was that every time he locked onto a ship, there was no player name above that ship for the X-Wing. Right? So that shows that's how you can spot, as a spectator, you can see very quickly, oh, he's just going for an AI right now. And it's important to know when people are doing that, you know, right now, sort of targets of opportunity. That's one of the things that people don't kind of realize, like they're always aiming at the other squadron. And actually, there's a whole lot of other things that you need to be doing than focusing on the other squadron. You know, you could kill maybe 4 AI ships on your way to objective, but if you never target them, how do you know they're there?
This is the coordination of Splinter Squadron. They followed their Corvette in onto the cruiser D, the left side cruiser there. As soon as the Corvette went down, they all turned back around, went for the resupply, and are now slowly collapsing back in. But full defense over here. All the fighting happening around Cruiser D right now. We're on board with Arios. See shields down. Again, this is phase number 1. It would be a deviation from their previous 2 games, and it will be as they lose out on this run without taking out either of the frigates. Both games 1 and 2 able to take out frigates in their first opening phase here. Splinter held just damage and taking out shields.
Yeah, having real trouble here actually to try and stop Grey Squadron from getting the flip there. Obviously they weren't able to, and now they're being able to sort of move forward. And we're seeing there is Arios on a defender, but again, you know, I kind of thought that we'd seen more defenders on this map, to be perfectly honest with you, because dipping in and out of these tunnels in the defender is so easy to do because you always have boost to stop yourself from hitting a wall.
Give yourself a little bit of time to build back up your resources as they push on to the A side, the B side frigate, following in the Raider. But a bit more disjointed Grey Squadron on their push here. They've gotten shields down on B, but no real meaningful damage on either. The shields now drop on A as well, sending one ship over, ion torpedoes over there by themselves over on A.
Yeah, very even right now. Yeah, very, very even right now. You know, we can see that morale bar is staying near the middle. It's just trading backwards and forwards. We are seeing some players go down, but they're going down evenly on both sides. But this Nebulon B frigate, I mean, it is just being circled by that radar. It does not look happy.
Now, luckily for it, there is not a lot of other fighter support around the radar, but nobody's actually concentrating on taking it out, so it's just getting free reign here on the Nebulon. Putting in sustained
they're
damage.
holding back on that because they want to build up the morale bar so that when they kill that radar, it flips for them.
They've gotten it very, very close.
It's a huge chunk.
Raider quickly become the target as we see those tunnels being dipped into, and now on to the Raider. And they finish it off, 70 health and falling.
Yeah, nice big morale split. Be very difficult for Shrapnel Squadron to build up the morale bar they need to stop this from sorry, it was going to be very hard for Grey Squadron to stop that from flipping over. And now going back the other way, you know, that first attack didn't go straight for them. What are they going to be able to do with this one?
No, but yes, Gray did, I believe, it looks like it marginally more. It's actually pretty even here as far as the how much damage each squad do. They both did substantial chunks, like a 1/3 and a 2/3 on one ship and the other ship respectively. But in out of phase at the very end, you see how far this bar is already swinging back in favor of the Empire. Gray was actually able to take down one of the frigates and leave it to down just at the very end of that phase. So while we do see Splinter back on offense here, they are actually losing on the scoreboard. You see the X above their name.
Yeah, absolutely. That means one of their towers is down, and that's a real problem. Wow. Not want that to be happening. And also, for anybody watching, just to let you know, the morale bar does switch which way it's going, depending on which team we're spectating. It's just one of those little minor things that can catch you out. You gotta watch out for that. It really, because, you know, it's white is your side, but it's the side of the player we're viewing. So we're all learning how to watch this, you know? It's kind of like, how did you watch ice hockey when that first started, you know? How did they know what was going on?
It does take a little bit. Learning how to watch, definitely a thing. As we see Splinter Squadron take down one cruiser and now work on the other one, despite their Corvette going down very early in the round. So coordinated efforts as they've got this one down to a third health, and they've actually evened out the morale bar as well, which was starting to really heavily swing the other way with that end out of phase takedown on the frigate and then the immediate follow-up on the Corvette. This has been some wonderful precision from Splinter Squadron, and they've gained a number of frags as well. You can see everybody having to respawn and fly back in from Gray Squadron. And that this last cruiser almost out of the fight.
Yeah, Fenkar bouncing his shields backwards and forwards depending on where he's taking fire from, not balancing them at all. Flipping it backwards when he's taking shots from the back, flipping it forwards when the cruiser starts focusing on him. Sorry, the frigate starts focusing on him, and that is just a masterful piece of work with the shielding. They're able to get out of there despite low hull.
And with that, they've taken out both cruisers. They'll fall back to their remaining frigate to resupply and regain momentum here. They'll leave only AI targets for the enemy to farm morale off of. And now push back onto offense. How do Cheese and the boys handle this?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, good question, absolutely. I mean, this looks like it's going to be really challenging. D-Strict just trying to take out that support before it could get close, but I think we already saw a Squadron mass go up, so it's going to be somewhat difficult to get a line on some of these players as they're trying to go for that right-hand shield generator, and it is... Did that pop? I can't tell. Looked like it might be about to explode.
The pressure on it.
Ah, there it goes.
Turn back around. There it goes. Another man, they are extending this second phase. They made up for the lack of productivity in phase one with getting both frigates and now one shield generator. They're going to have to fall back and defend. They won't get the second one, but definitely back on pace with what we saw from match number one, as they'll just take the deaths to respawn them across the field.
Yeah, that went really, really well for them, but it's not a one battle yet. I don't think. You know, that frigate could go down pretty quickly if they're able to focus on it. It's already not looking very healthy.
Yeah, definitely not a one battle, especially because like the one thing Gray's really got for them here is that they have already taken down that other frigate. So they just have this one in front of them that's a bit weak, and they'll already take it down now at the very beginning of their phase still. Look how far the morale is still in their direction as they push on to the MC-75. Shield generators will be first on the menu.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to get into the right-hand panel, trying to get under the shields as fast as you can. It doesn't matter if you ram it a bit, you're flying a bomber, you've got the hull for it. You can get out even with that. Try to circle around, get the other side. It's opportunity damage as much as possible. Stay alive for as long as you can. But if you do die, make sure that you die while you did a lot of damage.
Oh, and he was so fast. Cheese takes out both shield generators. Shields completely out on the Star Cruiser, and now starting to work on the power systems. This has been a very, very quick fight. As Gray is making quick work of this, and the Raider is still up.
Yeah, I don't know how that Raider's still up, except the only thing that I can do... Oh, there it goes. It goes down now, I think. And this is such a fight right now as we try to figure out exactly what's going on, but there is a big explosion.
Oh my
We're switching players too fast. I don't know who we're looking at, but I can see a lot of fire in the distance, and that doesn't look good.
No, we'll see. But at this point, Splinter, they managed to stave off the attack. They get a Corvette in, but they still have to take down a shield generator and a power system, and they basically need to finish on this phase because they have a completely exposed, about 60% health MC-75 behind them. And with the rate at which Cheese has been doing damage, I would not put it past them.
Yeah, the fact that they didn't get that left shield generator on the Star Destroyer is really hurting them right now because they really need to be able to ensure that they're going to be able to get in there quick. But the fact that that Star Destroyer still got shields is going to be so problematic for them.
It's only it's only a half health on the right shield generator. We see currently looking to do some attack. See if he can clear out of the way for the Corvette, take out the defenders standing in his way. Now, actually looking to maybe look like he was starting to position for a run on the shield generator, not his role, but they're going to go in Looks like they were putting some
Did you
power on the
spot that?
power as well. Right shield generator down. Yep. Well, so here comes a vehicle swap.
Yeah, with those vehicle swaps, did you notice that he wasn't aiming for the hangar opening? You can just fly up into the roof of the hole. It's something that a lot of people don't realize. You can hit the side of the hangar door easier than you can hit the roof of the thing. If you hit the roof of the thing, it'll just be back in the hangar, you'll fly in and you'll dock perfectly. So a great top tip for those players starting out. Be able to bounce, get that hull back up to full, super important.
Power systems dropping fast here, but still standing as the morale bar's back to middle. They're gonna need. Honestly, I feel like the move for Splinter right now is get a few eliminations on the other vessels. As the morale continues to push back in the Empire's favor. If they lose this morale, it's going to be game over. Gray definitely has them between a rock and a hard place. The power system still standing on the Star Destroyer.
Yeah, D-Strict bouncing out there. I think because he was on low hull, I think he's fine. Yeah, he's come back out in the same ship. So possibly switching a component. But yeah, I really don't know which way this is going to go. I really believe them when they say that this is what happens every time.
Power destroyed, and the momentum still continues to swing, though. This is going to have to be one big defense from Splinter Squadron. They have it down to, but the rockets are starting to come in. The Star Destroyer's getting knocked down. If they're able to finish this one off, they actually might even be able to finish it out of phase. They have such a health advantage on this Star Destroyer, and they're swarming it right now. The damage continues to rain in. There's so many weak points now with the power system down. It's so low. Is that it? I think it is. No, it's good job. Prepare to tackle. The Empire goes. No, okay. They do finish it off there.
They got it.
They swapped phases right as they got the win. What a close game, though. Clean effort. Splinter Squadron yet to drop a game on stream.
Yeah. I mean, they did all their dropping in the group stage, and that seems to have been enough for them. But I think it's worth pointing out that it was Grey Squadron that picked to play Imperials, I think, in this game. So that's also that's winning against the sort of, the benefit of having picked to the side, you know. So it's sort of like when you break somebody's serve in tennis, that's a big deal because that's an imbalance, and we want to increase that imbalance if we're competitive players. And well, I don't know how Grey Squadron are going to adapt to come back from that. But now we're going to Yavin, I think, so it's going to be a much more open situation, and it's going to be a lot harder, I think, to sort of dive into those tunnels, which I did see quite a few of the players making use of. Get that bit of cover, get those shields back up, get that shield overcharge back on. And also, just take some time to recharge your lasers, because it always feels like, I'm balancing power between shields and engines, and then I start shooting somebody and there's nothing there. So you got to balance everything. There's so much information going on. I really hope that we see this become like the first sort of, you could play without VR, but if you want to be competitive, you're going to have to play with VR.
I will just as an aside say yes, VR, good VR headset. Like the game becomes so much more intuitive. You're not chasing and trying to like deduce information out of an arrow that's moving around your screen. A player flies past you and you watch them. You track with them with their eyes, and you keep locked on them while you spin around to get them. Like it makes the game so much more fun. Much more immersive. It's wonderful, but it's definitely, I do think there is an advantage, especially with high-end headsets. Let's take a look at I believe it's the maps that we're going to be playing here. Yes, again, Yavin Prime going to be coming up here, and Splinter will be on the Empire this time around. We've already watched Splinter win on Yavin on Empire once today. We'll see if they can keep it as clean here in this second map and get revenge on Grey Squad from the group stages. Yeah,
I think that it's going to be tough, like we always talk about in these kinds of competitive events, the momentum that a team has coming off a win, in a best of situation. You're coming off that win, you're like, I can close it out now, like this is the moment. They just got to win one more game, man, and then they're in the finals. Can you imagine being in the finals?
Yeah. Oh,
Operation Ace Open? Like, come on. That's the dream. Like, you hear that this game's coming out and you're like, oh wow, I like the idea of that. That sounds great. And then, less than 2 months or 2 months after it comes out, you're sat there competing at this level against this kind of competition. Mentality-wise, how much experience do you think these players have dealing with that?
I mean, there is not much of a scene for dogfighting esports. Like, just in
there isn't
general.
a scene. I looked.
No.
I found one video on YouTube and it was terrible.
Yeah, there's for many of the games that do this sort of thing, there's one Discord where all the players hang out and the population of the game fluctuates between like 0 and 12 or something like that, right? Many of these people may be coming from other games. Yeah, this is going to be one of the highest profile tournaments they've played in. So, and to be a single elimination bracket's pretty brutal. Do not lose. You have no room for error here, as we'll be getting into game number 2. The difference maker from game number 1, because it was a very, very close game. I think it really came in phase 2 of Gray Squadron's offense. They take out the second frigate right at the beginning. They have all this momentum. They push in, they take out both shield generators and power systems, and then lose all the dogfights right afterwards, and morale swings back the other way. It's crazy that they needed to be able to finish in that phase to be able to take that game, because the dogfighting continued to go in Splinter Squadron's way as we went over to the other side. They were never able to get the morale swung back on their favor, despite being so close for the last minute and a half of that game.
Yeah, I think that Grey Squadron underestimated how hard Splinter were going to invest into winning the game right then and there. You know, they took that phase, and you say they lost all the dogfights. I think that was simply that it was quicker to do that. You know, it's quicker to die in that situation because you've achieved what you couldn't achieve, right? Like, how much more are you really going to achieve in one phase?
Don't stagger. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't stagger afterwards for sure, but I think the way Splinter stayed lasered in on what the objective was, you know, like the way you win that game is by killing the big ship at the back. It doesn't matter what the bar at the top of the screen is telling you, you know, like if it's nearly dead, stay there and kill it, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Then it's not going to come after you anymore.
Yeah, I think there's a world where, and again, like there's a lot of theory craft that can happen because we're still very early on in how this sport works. But like, there's a world where maybe leaving power systems slightly alive instead of taking it down creates a better mental edge for you. You know that the moment you push in, you're able to take out power systems and take down all the weak points and win the game very quickly. And the other team, seeing their power system still standing, quote unquote, gives them a sense of security that's not actually there. Maybe, I don't know, because there was such a bloodlust in the way that we watched Splinter Squadron fly on that third phase. There was no chance. They didn't have a chance of taking it down. So
they knew. They knew that there was no way that they could come back from it if they didn't do it right then and there. And that's, you know, ultimately that's what makes a great competitor, right? Recognizing when is the time to put everything on the line when it wouldn't normally make sense to do that.
We will start things off here on Yavin with Fenkar versus Cheese and the Bombers. Again, one player to note, I believe it was, oh my goodness, my brain is blank, Brunus. I believe it was Brunus. I needed to write it down. Who got 35k capital ship damage in that game number 1. We looked at Fenkar as being like, oh wow, look at him doing all of this work. And to be fair, Cheese put up the highest number, but he was alone at the top at like 53, and then you dropped to like 15 or 20-ish for his next teammate. Brunus was nearly matching Fenkar in damage there. The two of them combined, a dual threat option, giving a big part of what gave Splinter the win there.
You know, the defender might be the best at chaining dead drifts, but Jareen in that interceptor, I don't think he flew straight one time while we were looking at him.
He is just, Dinky's here is also flying backwards the whole time, flying straight into X-Wings.
Yeah, we have a very interesting back and forth here. I love Yavin, I really do. I said to Hunted earlier, you know, it anchors the Star Wars timeline. It's the iconic moment, you know, the Death Star blowing up, the start of the tide, the rebellion. Well, in this, we don't really have anything that's quite so symbolic, right? Because if one frigate goes down, that's not the end of the world. If both go down, that could be really problematic. But we don't have that sort of one hole that we can shoot one proton torpedo into to save the day.
Yeah.
Here we have to fight it out and grind it out. And I do kind of wonder whether one day we're going to be able to do a, you know, like one death per phase kind of thing for pilots. That'd be really interesting, I think, to see how that panned out.
That'd be pretty. I feel like you almost need bigger than 5v5 for that to really work, but I'm super down for it. Let's try it.
Yeah, we will do whatever we can, right?
We will see. It was a for the first time we're seeing Splinter lose the opening phase and be on defense to start things off. See, how do they play from a leg down? Can they keep both their ships alive? We'll follow in Gray Squadron. Follow their Corvette in.
Yeah, Scoutwalker here making use of the rotary cannon on the Y-wing. Look at him. He's got the squadron mask up. He's got full overshields, and he's going straight in towards some objective damage. And that's how we like to play.
I think it was. I believe Scalpwalker was the interceptor that he was trying to chase there and wasn't able to get any damage on. That's something Scalpwalker talks about. Like he loves being that nuisance or being that distraction. Like, hey, come get me. He's almost like a snitch in Quidditch.
He's like the bludgers. The bludgers in Quidditch. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
you know, it's distraction, right? If you can stop your opponent from doing what they want to do because they're having to deal with you instead, and your team knows that that's happening, it's very easy to leverage that advantage.
This was so clean from Splinter Squadron, already on offense.
Yeah.
Neither ship had time to have shields get taken down. We'll see how we'll watch Fenkar go to work. Fenkar switching off the bomber onto it as a standard tie. I'm interested to see what loadout he's flying here.
Yeah, so I think probably for the piercing torpedoes is what I would expect.
Yes, and he's also got some ion torpedoes. So
yeah,
running the objective. He's running the objective loadout for the tie.
Yeah, he's the guy who takes the wire cutters. You know.
Now watching Cheese try to get morale swung back to the way in the Y. That's his job. Concentrating on the AI farming. Both shields already down and one frigate having work done on it by this raider.
The meme beam. So much fun to look at, you know. He loves playing these objectives. He likes to prove that you can be mobile in these bigger, more sluggish ships that everybody else is less a fan of, you know. But I think that's really one of the things that I love the most about this, in a way that you maybe don't get so much with the more straightforward games, is that different roles shine at different parts of the game in a way that I don't think any other esports has really shined to me for. So it's really fun to watch. Like every time somebody dies, I'm like, are they going to spawn in the same ship? I don't know. I'm looking. I'm leaning forward. You know, I want to see.
One thing we're seeing from Brunus, I think, that is really smart, is using the three-dimensionality of the field. It's so easy to kind of just still think about it in two dimensions because we're so used to. But he attacking from way on high, falling down, dive bombing onto these frigates. It's just it's a dimension that you have to force yourself to think about. Your opponents, if they're not actively trying to look in that space, they'll just completely miss it. As on first assault, we will see again Splinter Squadron take down one of the frigates of Gray Squadron, and now the shield's down on both of their frigates and their cruisers, one at half health, but still phase 2 now for Gray Squadron as they're trailing a bit.
Yeah, this is a challenging situation, I think, for Gray Squadron. I did see that Rinky swapped off the A-wing into an X-wing. So I don't know how significant that change was, to be perfectly honest with you, but it seems like they've got a full rack right now in terms of resources, and Fenkar, though, is, you know, like, he just is spending a lot of time doing things that the other team would like him not to be doing. That's my impression.
We are seeing, looks like the bomber player's Cheese also coming from on high.
Yeah, that's how Birds of Prey do it, you know? Like, how does the Hawk hunt? They don't do it from the same level that they're praised at, that's for sure.
Oh, those are the high level things these players are good at, on top of being masters of their aircraft, literally. It looks like, but here again, my goodness, no way, we've swapped sides again. The productivity of these interceptors immediately swinging things back in their favor, and through 2 phases now, Gray Squadron yet to take out a cruiser.
Yeah, Gray Squadron having some real trouble here, trying to push forward and sort of take this advantage. They just can't seem to find the morale, no matter what they do. We see Cheese, you know, going after these AI ships, you know, just the way they just fly along in a little cube. It's so easy to just spray the rotary cannon around them, picking them up one by one, especially when you're playing as the Republic and they don't have any shields on those TIE fighters. It's almost too
Oh, yeah.
easy, and I think he feels like enough of that has been done. Is he swapping? No, he just resupplied.
The problem is on defense, you can't use your cruisers to resupply. And also, their cruiser is short for this world. Taken out, the Raider just gets one volley onto it, and they are onto the MC-75 with both cruisers still standing. And this creates so much pressure here, Silent, because the entirety of Splinter Squadron can just fall back to their cruisers to resupply. The amount of pressure that is about to be coming out is very strong. They're letting the Raider move in by itself. They don't even need it right now. All the Raider is free morale for the other team. It's not going to be doing much of a damage. The bomber runs, the defender runs that are about to be coming out from this team, they're actually just sticking on the ion proton builds with their TIE fighters. No actual bombers coming out from the Empire here as they try to push back in, run straight into a wall of respawning Rebel fighter pilots as well.
Well, here's the thing, right? Is like in this situation, you've pushed them back so far that they're very tightly grouped a lot of the time. You know, the other team is in the same place. You take a bomber into that situation, the three of them are going to kill you. So when you've taken down those initial cruisers, it really compresses the battlefield. You know, and that's, I think, the hardest part to overcome that defense is that the rest of the opposing team seems to have all of the field to work with, while you're just sort of crammed into the space around your flagship while you try to figure out how to make progress. And I don't know how you make progress in this situation. This looks like it's just done. I think that maybe there's a mentality issue here. Not in like a serious way, but just in the sense that like these guys had a great day where they won a lot, and this was the first time that they came up against real opposition to sort of kind of force them into that loss in that first game. And now look at where we're at. Well, and they 2-0'd in the first round, so...
You said that when they played in the group stage, I mean, this was an out-of-phase victory. It was such a close game. It required them kind of playing at the edges of the limits of the game to take home the victory. At this point, we're watching Splinter Cell. I did it again. Splinter Squadron.
You've done it every time.
Dude, it's what I think of every time that they do this. They're probably going to actually lose a frigate finally here, a light cruiser finally. But yeah, we saw in that push, they left the Raider to go, they went back and resupplied, and then they just ran back in, got both shield generators. That honestly, they're happy to die and fall back and defend the two cruisers that still stand at this point. They're going to get a free Corvette for morale, and then just try and fend off a few fighters. There's only two kind of anywhere near the danger zone right now. So we'll see. They've got so much of a lead at this point. They can afford to play that passive role, which is how Scalp likes to play. This is a player who plays the interceptor from kind of a wait for you to move into my territory and then light you up, and rather than chase you into your territory style. And he'll be able to pick them off one by one. They do lose both cruisers without gaining much morale, so we might see things starting to swing back the other way, but they are able to pick off these fighters one by one. You see them lit up there on your screen. And the support fire from the Star Destroyer is going to help pick them off as well.
Yeah, getting marked up there is problematic for sure, because it just makes it so much easier for everybody to know where you are and how to kill you. And in this situation, you know, they've got to do so much damage right now. If he's the focusing on the objective, you know, his job is going to be extremely difficult. You see Pseudo dodging missiles, trying to dip under the shields for long enough to get some shots on that generator, but not able to do so.
Yeah,
it's just being rebuffed at every time they try to do something. It feels like Splinter Squadron are closing the door on them.
Yeah, no, it was very close, and you'll see Pseudo try to at least finish this off out of phase before getting absolutely annihilated by the artillery from the Star Destroyer. The Raider comes in, and at this point, instead of the Raider pushing in by itself this time, it's going to have a full wing following in behind him, 5 fighters coming on. It'll be 1 interceptor, 2 defenders this time around. 2 interceptors, 2 defenders, and a Reaper. So a very strong offensive lineup pushing on to this completely exposed, shieldless MC-75.
Yeah, I think this is where we call it, to be honest with you. You know, it's going to take a miracle for Grey Squadron to turn this around. They're going to have to, you know, wipe or something.
Power system's down.
It doesn't look like that's going to happen with District going out early. And I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know. That's really interesting. You know, it's not often I'm in this situation where I'm commentating a game and I don't know what one team needs to do in order to beat the other. But in this situation, you know, everything's so new, it's so dramatic. These guys clearly have a way better knowledge of what's going on than I do. But a last minute bounce there from Cheese, or is
No, yeah, it looks like.
I mean, look at this.
I mean, Gray did manage to take out the Raider and also completely wipe the enemy team. So Splinter Squadron does have to reset here a bit. They have completely taken out the power systems and the shields on the Star on the MC-75. So next run will do it, but there is breathing room here. There isn't a moment of opportunity, and we saw Gray Squadron get onto the shield generators after being exposed in front of the ships. Can they actually finish them off? The right shield generator goes down, left shield generator falling. And that'll open up a lot of room for the Corvette to start putting its damage in. Does that shield generator go down? It does. And you'll see those shields drop quickly as they move on to the power systems. Game's starting to get a little bit closer.
If they can pull this back, I'm going to be astonished. But that full wipe looked like it came in at just the right time. You see a couple of opportunity shots at some turrets as well, because you can destroy the turrets on the Star Destroyer and the MC-75, make it easier to fly in. Obviously, once the guidance control goes down, it makes it much, much easier. But yeah, this is
just as we had said it. Just as we had said it, they managed to line them up in their sights, wipe Gray Squadron off the field of play, and they'll wipe the MC-75 as well.
Way too many weak spots on that hull. It's all over. That's all they wrote for Gray Squadron. What a fantastic day for them in the group stages, and you know, sweeping through round one, no problem. But coming up for the rematch that I was hoping we would see, and I'm so happy that I got to cast it. Look at these stats here. You know, such an even game. Everybody having to do a little bit of everything.
No, but look at Brunus. Brunus outgunning Fenkar on the capital ship damage. Brunus was the player, was kind of the key unsung hero of game number one, really backing up Fenkar when they were in a rough spot and finishing off those capital ships in that final phase. And then here actually outdoing him in damage. And then we saw Scalpwalker also up there high. Like, there were multiple threats there. Everything very well spread out, and even team effort from Gray Squadron as they were almost all breaking the 20K plus area. But my goodness, when you have players who are able to stay alive as long as those players are, and watching what Brunus did in that game, a huge difference maker, putting the team on his back. They are undefeated, Silent Echo, on stream right now.
Yeah, what a fantastic series. So happy we saw it, and well-deserved win for Splinter Squadron.
Absolutely. Well, they will move on in the bracket. When we come back, we will have semifinal number 2. Splinter Squadron wait in the finals for the conclusion of that match. We'll have it right here on stream for Operation Ace.